finally getting around to putting together a little bit of the photos and stuff from the trip to Malaysia in 2025. So we'll start with the first part of the trip. So before we went on the actual tour of Borneo. So Malaysia was an interesting shape. It kind of forms this U shape. But what really struck me was the architecture. Really interesting looking buildings, really weird stuff on them though. This was supposed to be the tallest building before the one in Saudi Arabia. And then a lot of the buildings have these high level connections and corridors. The buildings are best seen at night. Once they light them up, they're just stunning. Lots of decorations on them, lots of, artistic lighting on the outside, lots of mood lighting, which look pretty cool. You can see the Petronas Towers from lots of angles really, and beautiful mosques with their lights on. And this was taken from our hotel, the view from the hotel, up the top by the pool, great view of the Petronas Towers. And then at night time, went up there to have a look at it at night, and the reflections in the water were lovely. The Instagram girl at the back there, Karen and I tried our best to pout, but we didn't do it so well. So we're not Instagrammers. But it was really lovely. And then where our building didn't meet, and there was this gap, it created really lovely cityscape views between the two buildings. Then we went on a trip to Malacca and stopped at St. Peter's Church, which is the oldest functioning Roman Catholic church in Malaysia. And there was a whole lot of issues after 1641 when the Dutch took over, and they weren't allowed to practice Catholicism. And then that was redeemed or whatever in 1703. St. Peter's Church was built in 1710. Lots of frangipani, like frangipani. Lots of colours of it. There was actually a service going on when we visited, so we couldn't go inside. And then we went to Malacca itself, which I'm probably butchering the name of. And it's called the Historic State of Malacca. It's one of the earliest Malay sultanates, the Malacca Sultanate, but the local monarchy was abolished when the Portuguese conquered it in 1511. It's got a really unique history, and it's quite a major tourist destination as well. It was a great place for trade, lots of trade going on there. Beautiful roots of that tree. They had these really interesting tuk-tuk type things that were all cushioned out, and by the time Karen and I got to go to use one that was pouring really badly, and they don't go in the rain because all these soft toys will get ruined. So they had all these beautiful old buildings, fountains. So it was quite a nice place to be. It was a damn long trip back to Kuala Lumpur though. I think it took like 4 hours or something to get back. It was a really long trip on the way back. So that was an old, the old Sultan Palace there, and old gun things. And then we went and had a lunch, a traditional lunch. And what was interesting was as I went around the table to have a look, and our friend from Australia played statues, which was bizarre. This is evidently a Mr. Universe, Mr. Malaysia, that they celebrate there. Then we went shopping down Jonker Street and saw all these beautiful buildings. We actually saw a motorbike gang there as well that turned up and revved their bikes so everybody's car alarms went off. Karen looking for another shop. The next day we went out to the Batu Caves and a tour of KL. Absolutely stunning. The colours, the vibrancy. It was really, really interesting. So the Batu Caves, there's a 325 metre tall mogot, and it's got a series of limestone caves, and it's about 13 k's north of the capital, north of KL. They've got those beautifully coloured steps, which of course I couldn't do. Karen and I did one flight so we could get a photo taken, but that's all my leg would tolerate. they've got this really tall 43-metre high Murugan statue, and it's one of the largest Murugan statues in the world. So at this place they have the Tamil Hindu festival of Thaipusam in Malaysia is held there every year. The name of the cave complex is derived from the word batu from Malay, which means rock. They were used as shelters by the indigenous people. In the 1860s, Chinese settlers began excavating them and used the stuff for fertiliser. And the temple to Lord Murugan was completed in 1891, and the celebrations commenced in 1892. So next to them there was this big pond, and it had all these really lots and lots and lots of fish, and quite big, extraordinary looking fish. And this kid was feeding them, so I got him to throw bread at them to get them to come over so we could get some footage. So that was very, very impressive. Nobody was fishing though. There's a monkey. I think it's the only monkey we saw. Karen would be grateful it's the only monkey that we saw. Here anyway, we saw others later on. And then when we went to KL, flowers everywhere. Beautiful. We stopped at this place where they do silk art painting. And what they do is they do their outline in wax. So when they put the liquid on it, it doesn't spread out through the silk. It stops at where the wax is, and then they melt the wax off so it doesn't show. And it just has white borders when they finish. So Karen and I gave it a go. And then we went to the National Palace of Malaysia. They were expecting the Chinese president the next day, so we couldn't get in there to have a good look around. But those poor soldiers, it was so hot, and the horses, but they had fans on the inside there, and then there was somebody that sat next to them, so I don't know whether they were just making sure they didn't fall from their horse. So we had a little bit of a look around there. Looks like a really interesting place to go. And then we went to the National Mosque of Malaysia, which was really interesting. Of course, we had to put robes on us, and the women had to wear their hoods up. The men had to have a robe, but not put their hoods up. It's obviously if you're not Muslim. It has a capacity for 15,000 people, and it's situated on 13 acres of gardens. It's got a 73-metre high minaret and a 16-pointed star concrete main roof. The folded plates of the concrete main roof are a creative solution to achieving the largest spans required for the main gathering hall. Then we went to the Chinese temple, and it's a six-tiered temple of the Chinese sea goddess Mazu. It was completed in 1987 and opened in 1989, and it's one of the largest temples in Southeast Asia. And then it has a garden where they have all of the Chinese horoscope animals. You can see them along there. So I got my photo taken with mine, and I'm a snake, evidently. All comments about that, keep to yourself. And so, yeah, it was really pretty. There it is. But there were far too many steps, and my leg was over it by this point. So Karen went up and had a look through the temple, but I couldn't get to go. So that was the end of the first part of our trip to Malaysia. And from here, we headed to Borneo. Prior to going on our trip, in the research process, Karen and I discovered that there are shopping malls that have roller coasters inside. So of course we sought one out, and this is an example of the most amazing amusement park inside the shopping centre. Now I can't go on these things because of my head, so I get to hold Karen's purse, and she gets to enjoy travelling in a roller coaster inside a shopping mall.